I stared at the bank statement, my hands shaking. This couldn't be right. Greg, what is this? Why do you have a separate bank account? My husband looked up from his laptop, his face a mask of innocence. What are you talking about, Nina? I thrust the paper at him. This statement. It's addressed to you, but I've never seen this account before. There's over $50,000 in here. Greg's eyes narrowed as he snatched the paper from my hand. Where did you get this? It was mixed in with the regular mail. Don't change the subject. What's going on? He sighed, running a hand through his hair. It's nothing, Nina. Just a separate account I use for work expenses. Work expenses? Since when do you need a secret account for that? Before Greg could answer, our daughter Clara burst into the room, her pigtails bouncing. Mommy, Daddy, look what I drew. I forced a smile, pushing down the anger and confusion bubbling inside me. That's beautiful, sweetie. Why don't you go hang it on the fridge? As Clara skipped away, I turned back to Greg. This conversation isn't over, I hissed. He stood up, his jaw clenched. There's nothing to discuss. I'm going out. I watched him leave, my mind racing. How long had he been hiding this? What else was he keeping from me? The doorbell rang, interrupting my thoughts. I opened it to find Greg's mother, Vivian, standing there with her usual disapproving frown. Nina, dear, she said, brushing past me. I hope I'm not interrupting anything important. I bit back a retort. If she only knew. No, Vivian. Come in. As I closed the door, I caught a glimpse of Greg's car pulling out of the driveway. Where was he going? And more importantly, what was he hiding? Vivian's presence grated on my nerves as I tried to process Greg's deception. She bustled around the kitchen, criticizing everything from the way I organized the spice rack to how I folded Clara's clothes. Nina, why can't you keep your husband happy? Maybe he wouldn't need a secret if you did, Vivian said, her words cutting deep. I gripped the edge of the counter, fighting to keep my composure. What are you implying, Vivian? She waved her hand dismissively. Oh, men have needs. If they're not met at home. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed. It was Maya. I need to take this, I said, escaping to the backyard. Maya, thank God. You won't believe what's happening, I whispered, recounting the discovery of Greg's secret account and Vivian's barbs. That snake, Maya hissed. Nina, you need to keep a close eye on him. Something's not right. Just then, I heard the front door open. Greg was back. I've got to go, I told Maya. I'll call you later. I walked back inside to find Greg and Vivian in deep conversation. They fell silent as soon as I entered the room. Everything okay? I asked, my suspicion growing. Greg nodded, not meeting my eyes. Just catching up with Mom. Vivian patted his arm. My boy works so hard. You should appreciate him more, Nina. I bit my tongue, anger bubbling inside me. Just then, Henry, Greg's father, walked in. He gave me a sympathetic smile, but remained silent as Vivian dominated the conversation. As the evening wore on, the full. As I tucked her into bed, she asked, Mommy, why is everyone fighting? I smoothed her hair, forcing a smile. It's just grown-up stuff, sweetheart. Nothing for you to worry about. But as I closed her bedroom door, I knew things couldn't go on like this. I needed answers, and I needed them now. I found Greg in our bedroom, packing a small bag. Going somewhere? I asked, my heart pounding. He looked up, startled. Just a quick business trip. I meant to tell you earlier. Like you meant to tell me about that secret bank account? I countered. Greg's face hardened. I told you, it's for work. Why can't you trust me? Because you're lying to me. I exploded. What's really going on, Greg? Before he could answer, Vivian appeared in the doorway. Is everything all right? Greg, dear, you don't want to miss your flight. As Greg hurried past me, I caught a whiff of unfamiliar perfume. My stomach churned. What was he hiding? And how far would I go to uncover the truth? My phone rang, jolting me awake. It was Maya. Nina, I followed Greg today. You won't believe where he went. My heart raced as I sat up in bed. Tell me everything. He met a woman at the Bluebird Cafe. They looked intimate. Maya's voice was filled with concern. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. Are you sure? I'm so sorry, Nina. I took pictures. I'll send them to you. Moments later, my phone buzzed. The images were unmistakable. Greg with his arm around a stunning blonde, laughing over coffee. I was still staring at the photos when I heard the front door open. Greg was home. I stormed downstairs, my whole body shaking. How was your business trip? I spat, thrusting my phone in his face. Greg's eyes widened, then narrowed. You had me followed? Don't you dare turn this on me. Who is she? He sighed, running a hand through his hair. Her name's Amber. We've been seeing each other for a few months. The room spun. Months? How could you do this to us? To Clara. Oh, don't act so innocent, Greg sneered. You've been so wrapped up in Clara, you barely notice me anymore. A man has needs, Nina. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. So this is my fault? You're blaming me for your affair? Just then, Vivian burst into the room. What's all this shouting about? Greg turned to his mother, his face a mask of false anguish. Nina's accusing me of cheating. Can you believe it? Vivian's eyes flashed with anger. Nina, how dare you? My son would never dash. Oh, save it, I snapped, showing her the photos. Your precious boy isn't as innocent as you think. Vivian's face paled as she looked at the evidence. For once, she was speechless. I turned back to Greg. I want you out. Now. You can't kick me out of my own house, he snarled. Watch me, I replied, my voice ice cold. Get out, or I'll call the police. As Greg stormed upstairs to pack a bag, Vivian approached me. Nina, surely we can work this out. For Clara's sake, dash. Don't you dare use my daughter as a bargaining chip, I hissed. You've done enough damage. After Greg left, I collapsed on the couch, my mind reeling. How had my life fallen apart so quickly? And more importantly, what was I going to do now? One thing was certain, I wasn't going to let Greg walk away unscathed. He needed to pay for what he'd done to our family. As I sat there, plotting my next move, I realized that the meek, accommodating Nina was gone. In her place was a woman ready to fight for herself and her daughter, no matter the cost. I paced the living room, my mind racing with a mix of anger and determination. Maya sat on the couch, watching me with concern. Maya, I can't just let him walk away with everything. He needs to pay for what he's done, I said, my voice trembling with emotion. She nodded, her eyes flashing with the same fierce protectiveness I felt. You're right, Nina. We need a plan. For the next hour, we brainstormed ways to expose Greg's affair and financial deceit. It felt strange, plotting revenge against the man I once loved, but I knew I had to protect myself and Clara. We need solid evidence, Maya said. Not just of the affair, but of his financial misdeeds too. I remembered the hidden bank account. I'll start there. There must be a paper trail. Just then, my phone rang. It was my mother, Emily. Nina, honey, how are you holding up? I broke down, telling her everything. Her calm voice washed over me, soothing my frayed nerves. Listen to me, Nina, she said firmly. You're stronger than you know. You'll get through this, and Clara needs you to be strong now more than ever. Her words ignited a fire within me. You're right, Mom. I won't let Greg destroy what I've built. After hanging up, I turned to Maya with renewed determination. Let's do this. We spent the next few days gathering evidence. I combed through bank statements, finding suspicious transfers and unexplained expenses. Maya discreetly photographed Greg meeting his mistress, capturing incriminating moments. But our breakthrough came unexpectedly. While sorting through old files, I stumbled upon documents revealing Greg had been embezzling from his company. The realization hit me like a ton of bricks. This wasn't just about our marriage anymore. It was about exposing a criminal. Hands shaking, I called Maya. You won't believe what I found. As I explained my discovery, a plan began to form. We could use this information to ensure Greg faced real consequences, beyond just a messy divorce. But doubt crept in. Was I ready for the fallout? Could I handle the stress of a legal battle while protecting Clara? As if on cue, Clara's voice called out from upstairs. Mommy, can you read me a story? In that moment, I knew what I had to do. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about securing a future for my daughter, free from Greg's deceit and manipulation. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for the fight ahead. Maya, it's time to take action. We're going to expose everything. The path ahead was daunting, but for the first time in weeks, I felt a glimmer of hope. Greg had underestimated me, but he was about to learn just how formidable I could be when protecting what matters most. I took a deep breath, steeling myself for what I was about to do. Vivian, I think we need to talk about your son's behavior, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. Vivian's eyes narrowed. What are you implying, Nina? I laid out the evidence of Greg's affair, watching her face contort with shock and disbelief. This isn't just about our marriage, I continued. Greg's actions are threatening the family's reputation. As I'd hoped, Vivian's concern for appearances overrode her loyalty to Greg. How dare he? She hissed. I'll speak to him immediately. I watched from the kitchen as Vivian confronted Greg in the living room. Their voices rose, Greg's face reddening as he tried to defend himself. I felt a twinge of satisfaction, but it was short-lived. Greg's eyes met mine across the room, and I saw the moment he realized I'd orchestrated this. His expression hardened, and I knew the battle was far from over. Later that evening, as I tucked Clara into bed, Greg cornered me in the hallway. You think you're so clever, don't you? He snarled. Using my mother against me? I stood my ground. You brought this on yourself, Greg. He leaned in close, his voice low and menacing. You have no idea what you're dealing with, Nina. I'll destroy you before I let you take everything from me. A chill ran down my spine, but I refused to show fear. Is that a threat? It's a promise, he replied, turning on his heel and storming off. I leaned against the wall, my heart pounding. Greg's words echoed in my mind, and I realized the stakes had just gotten much higher. This wasn't just about exposing his affair anymore. It was about protecting myself and Clara from whatever Greg might do next. I needed to act fast. The evidence of Greg's embezzlement burned a hole in my pocket. Should I turn it over to the authorities now? Or wait and risk Greg destroying the evidence, or worse? As I weighed my options, I heard Clara calling from her room. Mommy, I'm scared. Can you stay with me? In that moment, I knew what I had to do. I couldn't let fear paralyze me. For Clara's sake, I had to be brave and take action. I pulled out my phone and dialed Maya's number. It's time, I said when she answered. We're going to the police tomorrow. No more waiting. As I hung up, a mix of determination and anxiety washed over me. Tomorrow would change everything, and there was no turning back. But for the first time in months, I felt truly in control of my destiny. Whatever Greg had planned, I would be ready. The annual family gathering at Vivian and Henry's house was in full swing, but my heart raced with anticipation. Today was the day I'd expose Greg's lies to everyone. As I watched Greg charm our relatives, I caught Maya's reassuring nod from across the room. It was time. Everyone, I have an announcement, I said, my voice stronger than I felt. The room fell silent, all eyes on me. I took a deep breath. I've recently discovered some troubling information about Greg that you all need to know. Greg's face paled as I revealed his affair and financial deceit, presenting the evidence we'd gathered. Gasps and murmurs filled the room. Nina, you're making a fool of yourself, Greg snarled, but I could see the panic in his eyes. Vivian stood up, her face a mask of shock and anger. Greg, is this true? Before he could answer, I produced the documents proving his embezzlement. It's not just our family he's betrayed, I said, my voice shaking. He's been stealing from his company. The room erupted in chaos. Greg lunged towards me, but Henry stepped between us. That's enough, son, Henry said firmly, surprising everyone with his intervention. Greg's eyes blazed with fury. Nina, you think you've won? You have no idea what I'm capable of. He turned to the stunned crowd. You want to know the truth? Nina's not as innocent as she pretends. She's been. I braced myself for whatever lie he was about to spin, but Henry cut him off. Stop it, Greg. We've heard enough of your lies, Henry said, his voice filled with disappointment. Vivian, tears in her eyes, approached me. Nina, I'm so sorry. I should have seen. As the reality of the situation sank in, I felt a mix of relief and exhaustion. But Greg's threat echoed in my mind, reminding me that this battle was far from over. Clara, sensing the tension, ran to me and wrapped her arms around my legs. "Mommy, what's happening? Why is everyone yelling?" I knelt down, hugging her tight. "It's okay, sweetheart. Everything's going to be okay." As I held my daughter, I locked eyes with Greg across the room. His expression was one of pure hatred, and I knew he wouldn't give up without a fight. In that moment, I realized the true weight of what I'd done. I'd exposed Greg's lies, but at what cost? How far would he go to retaliate? And was I strong enough to protect Clara from the storm that was surely coming? The room spun around me as the magnitude of the situation hit home. I'd won this battle, but the war was far from over, and the stakes had never been higher. The aftermath of the family gathering was a whirlwind. I stood in the kitchen, my hands shaking as I poured a glass of water. The house was eerily quiet after the chaos of the revelation. Suddenly, Vivian burst through the door, her face a mix of anger and shame. "Greg, you've disgraced this family," she spat at her son, who was sulking in the corner. Then, to my shock, she turned to me. "Nina, I was wrong about you." "I'm so sorry." I nodded, unable to speak. The weight of everything that had happened crashed down on me. Greg's eyes flashed with fury. "You're taking her side now, Mom? After everything I've done for this family?" "What you've done is lie, cheat, and steal," Henry interjected, his voice firm. "It's time to face the consequences, son." As if on cue, the doorbell rang. My heart raced as Henry answered it. 2 police officers stood on the porch, their faces grim. "Gregory Thompson," one of them asked. "We have a warrant for your arrest on charges of embezzlement."
Time seemed to slow as they read Greg his rights. He glared at me, his voice low and menacing. "This isn't over, Nina. You'll regret this." As they led him away, Clara came running down the stairs, her eyes wide with fear. "Mommy, where are they taking Daddy?" I knelt down, pulling her close. "Daddy did some bad things, sweetheart. He needs to go away for a while to make things right." Vivian approached us, tears in her eyes. "Nina, I don't know how to make this up to you. I should have seen what was happening." I took a deep breath, years of resentment and pain bubbling to the surface. But as I looked at Clara's innocent face, I knew I had to be the bigger person. "We all made mistakes, Vivian. What matters now is how we move forward." Maya appeared at my side, her arm around my shoulders. "You did it, Nina. You stood up for yourself and Clara." I nodded, feeling a strange mix of relief and terror. Greg's threat echoed in my mind, and I knew this was far from over. What if he found a way to retaliate? How would I protect Clara from the fallout? As if reading my thoughts, Emily stepped forward. "You're not alone in this, honey. We're all here for you and Clara." I looked around at the faces of my family and friends, seeing the support and love I'd been missing for so long. For the first time in years, I felt a glimmer of hope. But as I held Clara close, I couldn't shake the feeling that the hardest part of our journey was still to come. Greg's words haunted me. This isn't over. And deep down, I knew he was right. The battle was won, but the war? It was just beginning. 6 months after Greg's arrest, I stood in our newly redecorated living room, a sense of peace washing over me. Clara bounded down the stairs, her backpack bouncing. "Mommy, are we going to be okay?" she asked, her eyes wide with a mix of hope and lingering worry. I knelt down, cupping her face in my hands. "Yes, my love. We're going to be more than okay." As we headed out for Clara's first day at her new school, I caught a glimpse of our reflection in the hallway mirror. Gone was the shadow of fear that had haunted us for so long. In its place, I saw strength and resilience. Maya was waiting outside, ready to drive us. Her unwavering support had been my lifeline through the darkest days. "Ready for your big day, Clara?" Maya asked, giving her a high five. As we drove, I thought about how far we'd come. The divorce was finalized, Greg was serving time for embezzlement, and slowly but surely, we were rebuilding our lives. Vivian and Henry had become unexpected allies. Their efforts to make amends were genuine, and I found myself grateful for their presence in Clara's life. At the school gates, I hugged Clara tight. "Remember, you're brave and strong just like your mommy," I whispered. Watching her walk into school, head held high, I felt a surge of pride. We had weathered the storm together and come out stronger. Later that evening, as I tucked Clara into bed, she asked, "Do you miss Daddy?" I paused, choosing my words carefully. "I miss the good times we had as a family, but I'm excited about the new memories we'll make together." After she fell asleep, I sat on the porch with a cup of tea, reflecting on our journey. The pain of betrayal had transformed into a source of strength. I had discovered a resilience I never knew I possessed. My phone buzzed with a text from Emily. "Proud of you, honey. You've come so far." Tears welled up in my eyes, but they were tears of gratitude and hope. The road ahead wasn't perfect. There would still be challenges to face. But for the first time in years, I felt truly free. As I looked up at the stars, I made a silent promise to myself and Clara. We would not just survive, but thrive. Our story wasn't ending. It was just beginning. The future stretched out before us, full of possibilities. And I was ready to embrace it all, with Clara by my side and the strength of our newfound family supporting us every step of the way.